All right, welcome everybody to another episode of We All Speak in Poems. Today, me and Chantal are sitting down with Austin Cairns, aka R Beny. How are you, man?
I am well. Thank you for having me. How are you two?
Yeah, we're
We're
great.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really stoked for this one. We have a lot of questions.
Oh,
You're
good.
sort of like one of the legends of ambient music now, almost.
I don't know
You know,
about that.
starting to get there. I don't know anybody who sort of either doesn't know your name or at least just doesn't like your music. Everybody loves it, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be. I'm hoping this one's gonna be really good.
Yeah.
So to start it all off, before R Beny and all that, like, what were you sort of doing? What was your introduction to music?
Yeah. So I actually had family members that were musicians, namely my grandparents. They're bluegrass musicians.
Oh well.
So music was kind of just always around. And I think because of that, because they watched me a lot growing up, I kind of was just like, well, music is, I wasn't really into it. I was like, well, my grandparents are into music, then as a little kid, I'm like, I don't want to do this. But I think I
Yeah.
came to appreciate it later on. But yeah, just like having music around. So I kind of already had, I would take lessons against my will. um, but yeah, I come to appreciate that later. Yeah. I was the first thing I learned was ukulele,
Oh,
I think.
cool.
Yeah. So like the thing was, is if I finished one VHS tape of lessons, they would take me to the toy store and get like a toy car or something.
Oh,
Amazing.
wow.
So, yeah, eventually, yeah, I just got into music through friends. My friends would play guitar. They were in the band at school, and we would share music. And I was like, oh, I want to get into uh, that world. So I took guitar lessons, and yeah, eventually found my way to synths after years, playing in bands and things like that. It was kind of a reaction to that.
Amazing. Yeah. So when you say you picked up guitar like in school because of your friends and stuff, what's the sort of timeline there? Like elementary school or high school or?
Um, yeah, I guess it would have been around the middle school area, like sixth through eighth. I can't remember the exact year. I was probably 12 or 13.
Oh,
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah, and it was definitely like a thing where like I was not as good as I wanted to be, like I wanted to play all the songs that I loved, but I was, not good.
Oh.
I didn't have like my hands would not match what my brain was trying to do. So
I feel that even now with guitar,
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't work.
no.
It's tricky.
But eventually I was just like, oh, there's these things called like reverb and delay, and they can make you sound good no matter what you do. So yeah, I remember like I had one of those like multi effects like Digitech things, and uh yeah, discovering there was like a whale sounds preset on it or something like that. And I was just like, whoa, my guitar doesn't have to sound like a guitar. So that was kind of
Yeah.
like the first inkling I had of like ambient music, and then just kind of discovering it around at the same time, like finding out about Brian Eno and
Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that.
What kind of music were you and your friends playing? Was it like rock and kind of metal or?
Yeah. So we were really into like metal and industrial type of stuff, like Nine Inch Nails and Skinny Puppy, and even some not so great stuff like Rammstein and stuff like that. So it's definitely like our early bands were kind of trying to sound like that. And then I think things kind of shifted as we got a little bit older, getting into like post rock and kind of more atmospheric rock metal type of stuff.
Very cool.
Amazing. Yeah, because that's kind of what I grew up on too.
Yeah.
I started with
Oh, cool.
drums at first and, playing whatever metal was around. I wasn't really in bands and stuff because none of my friends were interested in music, it seemed. But yeah, so your introduction to ambient music with like Brian Eno and finding out that the guitar can make, some crazy drones and all this stuff. Like, was there anybody who sort of introduced you to that, or did you just kind of find it naturally through, other people's music listening habits and stuff?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to recall, but that from my best recollection, I found out about Brian Eno through the library. I used to go to the
Oh, cool.
library with a friend, and we would just pick out CD covers that we liked, and then just rent like 30 or 40 CDs, whatever the limit was. And then we'd go to his house and he had one of those old school CD burners, like that's not even attached to a computer. Um, and we would just burn CDs. So I found out about Brian Eno that way. I think it was actually the Brian Eno and Fripp album, one of their albums that they did together.
Oh, wow.
So there's a tangible guitar parts in those too. So it's like, oh wow, this is really cool. And then that's led me down to searching blogs for similar types of music. And then this is like going on at the same time where I'm like discovering all this stuff on like about guitar pedals and how you can do more minimal guitar styles as opposed to like needing to play riffs all the time. And so it all kind of happened simultaneously. And then, once I heard ambient music, I was all in. Like I just tried to get any record I could get my hands on at the
That's
time.
awesome.
Pre-streaming, so you had to like find it on Napster or go to the library or the record store. So
Wow. Yeah, library. I don't think my library had that.
Yeah, I don't think mine did either.
Yeah, they just focused on books.
no,
That's
we were
pretty-
very lucky to have a nice library system here.
for
Yeah,
sure,
that's
especially with
good.
ambient music in it. That would be a game changer I feel
Yeah.
like, for a lot of people,
Yeah, and that was like how I like figured out who Bjork was and
Oh,
like
wow.
Nine Inch Nails. I figured out through that too. So it was definitely like a cool experience, like growing up, like trying to find new music. Definitely a good resource.
That's
yeah,
very
for
cool.
sure. So where do you have like a story behind the name R Beny, or?
Yeah. So R Beny really was meant to be like a placeholder name, actually. At the time, but when I started this project, I was really into, or I guess I still am into the work of this photographer named Roloff Beny.
Oh, okay, cool.
He was a Canadian, actually,
Oh, wow.
and he was working in the 60s and 70s, and he did a lot of photography of nature and things like that. So when I started my YouTube channel about six or 7 years ago now, wow, holy shit. I didn't really have a name, and I was just going to do a quick tutorial for someone that I had met on a music forum. And I was like, well, I'll just make this and make the video private. This is not going to be a real thing. And I was just like, R Beny, because, yeah, I don't know why. I was just like a tribute, and the book was like sitting right there. So
Wow.
I just did that, and then the first video kind of just blew up, and then I guess it kind of stuck after that.
For sure. That's really cool. I mean, there's a lot of sort of iconic artists and stuff who sort of take the names of their idols and stuff, and that's just really cool. I think that's a really cool
Yeah.
way to come up with an alias.
I've learned more about him since then.
Yeah.
He definitely seems like a cool person. So, I
That's
mean, I think
awesome.
he's since passed many years ago, but
Yeah.
I hope I do the name justice, even if the name's not exactly the same.
Absolutely. That's really cool.
So we noticed with a lot of your song titles, they kind of reference to photography.
Mhm.
Is photography one of your other creative outlets, or is it just something that kind of brings you inspiration?
Yeah, photography is definitely one of my other creative outlets. Film photography in particular.
Oh, cool.
That was just maybe that was something like a vestige left over from when I was a kid. There were no digital cameras, or they were too expensive.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I always remembered going with my mom doing the 24-hour photo thing at the drugstore, and yeah, the process always just kind of stuck with me. So whenever I'd look in like at family photos and they just have like this like certain feel to them,
Mhm.
I was like, I would like to continue doing that, as I got older. So
That's awesome.
For sure, yeah. And the film photography definitely makes sense. Like I feel like you're a
Yeah.
very tactile person. Like you're really
Hmm.
into the modular, you're really into synths, and film is just another sort of asset to that. It's pretty similar, I think.
yeah,
In terms of
I think along the same
experimentation.
lines of like tape and vinyl, just liking physical mediums a
Yeah.
lot. Just trying not to get everything lost in the digital world.
Yeah.
For sure. What's your setup right now for photography? I'll get to the music afterwards, but I'm really interested.
So film stuff, I guess my main camera is a Canon A1.
Oh, nice.
I'm not sure. Those are kind of like basic cameras. I've had that one forever. I like that one because it does have like a semi-automatic mode. So
Hmm.
when I just want to go out and shoot and not think about ISO and stuff, it has like that auto mode, which works pretty well.
For sure.
And then I recently got this Ricoh GR1,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is like a little handheld camera. So that's like a lot easier to take out if I'm, out and about. Super easy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then I have a couple Polaroid cameras I like to use. Then I have this old Olympus that my grandfather gave me, passed down to me.
Wow.
I don't know the exact model number of the camera, but
For
it's
sure.
pretty nice. That one's like the old school, like everything is mechanical on it. So that one's like a very good one to learn on.
Amazing. Yeah. So going back, you said you actually started on YouTube instead of like actually just releasing it. You just kind of started making videos.
Yeah. So I guess like part of the reasoning behind that is I actually quit music for about a year
Oh,
before I
wow.
started doing this. Because I had been playing in bands and it kind of had become unfulfilling to me. Like I felt like I wasn't really making the music that I wanted to. Like even sitting alone in my room making loops or whatever, I never felt like I was making anything I was proud of. And playing in bands, I felt like I was playing other people's music and or like playing styles I wasn't really into anymore. So I'd like sold all my gear and just stopped making music for a year. I was completely at peace with it until a friend showed me one of his synths, and I was just like, "Wow, this is pretty fun." And then flash forward to like 2 months later, I have like 5 synths and you know bit off more than I could chew. But yeah, I guess eventually I started that YouTube channel just to do like a private tutorial for someone on one of the synths, just something I had figured out that wasn't in the manual. And I wasn't ever planning to record music or to release it or anything. I was fine just keeping, doing music stuff at home alone. So I think it kind of like grew organically from there because I still was doing tutorials to start the YouTube channel with, and then once I started doing music, I got requests to do albums and
Wow.
stuff like that.
That's really cool.
So now it's like kind of back on that path of making music.
For sure. I want to get into the newest release of yours, "We Grow in a Gleam," because
Ah,
you released it kind of as a 30-minute or so piece, but when you listen to it, it's almost set up like an album. Like there's different uh, sections, if you will, like, and they just kind of flow into each other perfectly. Was it kind of composed that way, or
yeah.
like is that intentional?
So I guess it's half intentional and half not intentional. The reason that it wouldn't be intentional is I'm just not great at making longer pieces. With a lot of, I mean, my music does have a lot of repetition, but I've never been one to just let the, same thing go on for 20 minutes or something like that. So when this label approached me, the long form editions, I was kind of hesitating of whether to actually do it since I'm not great at doing long form stuff like that. But I figured if I could break it up into different movements, I could probably handle it. So that was kind of the inspiration there.
Yeah.
Plus, like this, coming from being a fan of bands like Godspeed You Black Emperor, where they have these long 20-minute songs, but they're broken up into different movements. I was kind of inspired by that. So that was kind of the thinking there.
Yeah, it was a real trip listening to it because I almost expected it to just be sort of a 30-minute long ambient or drone piece that is repetitive, but I think what amount around 4 maybe 6 minutes or so. Um, all of a sudden the change comes in. And I think it was the major pitch change that first hit me, and I was like, "We're in a whole different section now." It doesn't sound anything like that. And I
Yeah,
thought that was really really cool and inspiring because long form is definitely something I struggle with too. Something I try at, but to me, long form is what you do like 8 minutes. That's
yeah,
to me at
yeah.
least.
8 minutes would be very long to me. So I was just like, 20 minutes. How am I going to do that?
Yeah, for sure.
25 minutes. Well,
Yeah, and it's funny because some of your longer songs on like Echo's verse and whatever album are my favorite ones that you've put out. But In terms of your like starting a track normally, do you have like a specific process or is it kind of just experimentation most of the time?
So I guess like yeah, it is experimentation a lot of the time. You know, yeah, sometimes it's just different processes. Like I'll think of a prompt I want to try, like try to make something that sounds like this, or try to make something that does this, this, and this. But a lot of the times it's just coming up with like a sound palette first, like coming up with sounds I like, doing patch design on a synth or something, and then coming up with the music after I have like a palette already. So it's kind of like I like to think of it as like painting, where the artist will choose their color palette and then make the painting. It's like that, choosing the sound palette and then making the music based off of that.
Wow. Amazing.
And then sometimes it's like I'll have a musical idea will just come to me like in a dream or something.
Wow, that's cool.
But that's rare. That's much more rare.
Yeah, for sure.
Usually you have to put more work in. So
If you ever like hit a creative wall and you just really don't know where to start or how to get going, like what are some techniques that you use to get past that?
yeah, that happens all the time, unfortunately. um, I mean, the biggest one for me is just getting away from
Yeah.
the creative things. So just like going for a walk or for a hike, getting outside in general,
Yeah.
kind of just disconnecting any part of my brain that needs to think beyond just breathing and moving, kind of helps. Sometimes, you don't have the luxury of time to process stuff like that. So if I have like a deadline of something I need to work on creatively, it's just a case of working on it little by little and trying to envision what the final thing will sound like. Like I feel like if I have a map towards the finish line of whatever I'm trying to finish, it helps the process a little bit as
Yeah.
opposed to just blindly working.
For sure. So with that being said, do you find that you actually don't maybe work on music very often, or is it kind of always scheduled, or is it just whenever you feel like it?
Yeah, it's pretty much whenever I feel like it.
That's
Like at
cool.
this point,
Yeah.
I haven't really worked on music in the last like 6 months,
Oh, wow.
just for creative reasons. And I've been in the middle of moving. So just all these external factors have made it so like, okay, yeah, I'm not really feeling it right now.
For sure.
I've done a few things here and there, and I'm prepping for some upcoming gigs next week. So it's like, okay, I'm getting back into the swing of things. But yeah, I'll definitely have long, 5, 6 month periods where I just don't really work on music. But then it'll be like a super concentrated, like 3 months where that's all I do every day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
That sounds a lot like what I
12
do
hours a day.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12 hours a day. Um, and I noticed too, a lot of your albums, they have like sort of stories within it. Maybe not stories, but they're like meanings behind them. And a lot of people, including myself, sometimes just don't have meanings for tracks or an album. Is that something you go into like almost needing, or is that something sort of that comes along with just the process of making an album?
That's definitely something that it's a conscious decision to make music based on whether it's stories or just an expression. I don't know what the right word is, like trying to express myself.
Yeah,
So usually if I'm putting out an album, it's an extension of that.
for sure. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I have to ask about the title of Echoes first,
Yes.
because I up until maybe earlier this year, I had never known that Echo was a Greek mythological figure or whatever. Does that have anything to do with the title there, or is that sort of added onto it?
It absolutely does. I guess the original inspiration was there's a passage in the book House of Leaves by
Oh,
Mark
that's where I heard about it
Danielewski.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so that's exactly where that's from. So that
Oh,
that
wow.
line had always stuck with me or that passage after
Yeah.
reading the book. And eventually, I was just like, okay, that's going to be a song or an album title, because that really resonated with me. The story of Echo. I
Absolutely.
can't recall it off the top of my head here at the moment, but yeah, to me, like it was a very poignant passage and story. So yeah, I
Are you an avid reader? Because like House of Leaves is a pretty it's a pretty heavy
yeah
book.
Yeah, and I have to just
yeah
say, like when I was reading House of Leaves and then that whole Echo passage came in, I was like, wait a minute, R Beny, like, is this where he found it? I was like, this is so
yeah.
weird, because I think that was right around the time you actually sent me the vinyl, or I
Oh
bought the vinyl from you because I thought it was sold out, um, and I was like, wow, this is
nope.
super
Yep.
weird,
That's
but yeah,
exactly where it came from.
wow,
I'm not. I don't read as much as I should currently. I've been trying to read more, but yeah, I, I I love reading. Just a matter of finding more time to do it.
for sure. Do you have any sort of favorite authors or favorite styles or even favorite books?
It's a good question.
Not to put you on the
I
spot.
love reading about like travel and nature, um, like history, things like that. Um, I still love nonfiction too, or fiction too. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it really just depends, like what whatever interests me, I guess, at the moment. Like I was really into like Arctic countries recently for some reason, and so I read a book about the that seed
Oh, the seed
storage
vault.
facility that's like
Yeah.
in Norway or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
So I
that's
was just
super
like
cool.
reading about like that, and then now I'm reading about this book about owls.
Oh,
Oh, cool.
cool.
Yeah, so that's what I'm reading now when I do have time.
Wow.
Oh,
Do
amazing.
you find that you draw a lot of inspiration, like for maybe your song titles or even just how you want a song to sound or an album? Do you draw that from novels ever or
Yeah,
yeah?
I usually what I do is like if something strikes me, like a word or a passage, I have a little journal that I write down that stuff in. So like Echo's verse, I had written that passage down inside my journal years. This is probably even before I was doing the R Beny stuff.
Oh, wow.
So just returning to it and like, yeah, that definitely like lit a bulb in my creative brain to do that. A lot of my
Cool.
song titles come that way, and like inspiration comes from that. Yes.
For
Very
sure.
nice.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, it's really cool to hear, when there's sort of overlap with some people's inspirations and, how they work and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so the gear you use, do you have any go-to gear that you're using right now, or like favorite synths or tape machines or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always trying to figure out what the best is, or best for me. The go-to synth for me the last couple years has been the Novation Summit,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and prior to that, the Novation Peak. Just kind of like a virtual analog synth. Like it's not fully analog. The oscillators aren't analog, but the filters and like the VCAs are all analog. I really love that synth. Like that's on everything I've ever released. I think besides like one album or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Lately, I've been getting into this Waldorf Iridium synth.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that thing has like sampling capabilities and has like a physical modeling engine.
Oh, wow.
I really have been getting into physical modeling. I kind of like that uncanny valley type like acoustic sound.
For sure. Yeah,
Cool.
you can really hear that in yours, like even just allowing, um, the tape hiss and stuff to be another part of the texture of your tracks. It's inspiring for me because you know you're just proving that you're allowed to leave that stuff in, and almost use it to your
Yeah,
advantage. It's really
yeah,
cool. I have to ask about the first track of Echoes verse as well, Crushing. There, it's not a synth in that the sort of tape loop. It's strings, right? Like actual strings,
yeah.
if you can recall it.
So I guess what it is it's like one of those Mellotron knockoffs.
Oh, really?
So for that album, I was actually borrowing that Mellotron. I forgot the name of it, but borrowing the Mellotron knockoff from a friend, and I just decided to make an album based around that and processing those sounds. So I think it
Wow.
is like just the string setting on a Mellotron
It
in that
sounds
album.
so real.
Yeah, it's like buried in tape and, all types of effects and stuff. But yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I was convinced that you had either sampled, a string player or hired somebody, because I think that was the first time I had ever heard a sound like that in your music, where it was almost more acoustic instead of synth
Uh,
based. Uh, and so yeah, that's really interesting to hear that it was all Mellotron. It's
yeah.
crazy to hear what you can do, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
And those things sound, really good on their own anyway. But
mhm.
yeah, you run them through some effects and yeah, you can really make them pop.
So I also notice, you're kind of a regular on DAO, the label DAO, and I was wondering how you figure out when an album's going to be released through any label versus like a solo release.
Yeah. So that's actually a good question, because I do get that one a lot. So maybe this could help clarify something. But yeah, when was starting this thing, I had a goal in mind of only doing self releases unless it was something I could not do on my own, whether that's reach an audience that I couldn't do on my own, or resources like getting vinyl done that I couldn't do on my own. But I was able to get tapes done and CDs done on my own, and I can do a release on my own. But with Dow, he had been pushing to do a release with me for a while, and I was still kind of pushing back on doing anything with any label. But I guess over time I became friends with Peter, who runs the label, and I saw that he did a release with I might be saying this wrong, but Benoit Pouliard.
Oh
I
yeah.
think so. Yeah, I always have trouble
Yeah, and I was
pronouncing his
like,
name too.
oh, I want to be on this. I want to be on a label that he has a release on
Aw.
because I was a big fan of his. So that finally, like, I was like, okay, I'll release an album with you. But then, yeah, it just became like a thing where I became friends with, Peter, like I said, and every once in a while we'll be like, okay, let's do this release together. We'll plan it out and um, set like a deadline and stuff like that.
For
Whereas
sure.
opposed to the self releases, there's no deadlines and it could take forever to finish.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. And I think some of your DAO releases are some of my favorite, like Echo's verse, and also how do you pronounce it? Saudade? Is that
That's how I say
Yeah, that's. I'm
Saudade?
not quite sure the best way to say it. So, yeah, that was one of those words where you read it and you like fall in love with the meaning, and then you realize you don't actually know how to say it.
For sure, for sure.
it.
So I'll probably refrain from trying to say it now. But
It's funny too because I follow wherever Benoit goes, because I'm
yeah,
such a huge fan of his as well, and I'm always like, oh, he's releasing on this label and this label. Like if they ask me or whatever, maybe I'll actually consider it, or at least
yeah, I feel
before.
like it's a good barometer for like quality. They like, okay, if it's good enough for him, then yeah, it should be good enough for me.
Absolutely.
I mean, the way you explained your relationship with Dow, it sounds like a really like chilled back label company. Like I feel like a lot of labels are a lot more strict with contracts and like having to have a certain amount of releases. Whereas what you said, it was kind of like, if you feel like releasing with them, then you guys figure it out and you do it. And if not, then
Yeah,
you do it solo. And that's awesome
Yeah, it's really
that you
cool.
have that freedom.
yeah, they're very, very, very laid back like that. Like
Yeah,
I think there's no stipulations, just that they can use their own in-house art director, and other than that, yeah, you're free to do what you want.
that's
The
amazing.
music, you own all the rights to it, and yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, I've only heard good things about DAO, and obviously their artwork is iconic at this point. You can always tell when it's a DAO release. Um,
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you working on anything now that you kind of want to share? Or I mean, you said that it's been a while,
Yeah.
almost 6 months, but even the live shows, like, are you doing anything special for them, sort of with synths and all that? Are you trying anything new?
I'm still figuring out exactly what I'm gonna do.
For
I
sure.
have a week until the first show, so yeah, got to figure that out. uh, yeah, before I took this break, I was working on stuff that was more rhythmic based.
Oh, cool.
So I'm probably going to be returning to that a little bit. I recorded a bunch of stuff that hasn't been released yet. I guess it's for technically another project that I was starting or going to be starting, but I might try to bring some of that into this R Beny thing.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I guess I'm going to try to ramp up work on that after these upcoming shows and put something more rhythmic out.
When you say rhythmic, do you mean just like sort of house beats or like the kicks, or is it actual, drum kit based or?
Yeah, it's less based around drums and percussion and more like using like compression and volume stuff to add rhythm, similar to like Vladislav Delay,
Oh, wow.
or I think like Ben Frost does a lot of this type of stuff too.
Oh, so
So just
sick.
like playing with dynamics to make rhythm. There's still like beats and stuff in there too, but it's less focused around creating a beat, um, more just like at rhythmic ambient type of stuff.
Wow, that's really cool.
And you said that you were thinking about putting it under like a different project, like a different alias, or
Yeah,
yeah?
I was
Do you have
gonna.
another alias?
Well, that's the thing is I was gonna do it anonymously.
Oh, okay.
Well, I haven't decided 100% yet, but the first track of this project will be released anonymously on a compilation. There's like a bunch of artists that contributed tracks, and the whole thing is going to be anonymous. So I was like, oh, well, that would be a good
Wow, that's
starting point
cool.
for that.
Yeah.
But I haven't decided on a name for it yet. So
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
would you do that just so that you can explore making different sounds, or do you think you would still go kind of in the same path?
I think I would probably use it for exploring some more different sounds.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing, like, because I know there shouldn't be like any attachment to like what style of music someone makes. Like someone can just make whatever music they want under
Yeah.
any name. But I've always kind of like liked that, like how the guy from Godflesh has all these different projects, even though it's just the same guy.
Yeah.
It's like he's made Yesu, and then he made Final and Techno Animal. So I kind of like that, like splintering of different creative processes into different projects, even though it's all just me.
Yeah. I think that's something a lot of us, I think, have sort of struggled with, like even though when you listen to an R Beny track, I think a lot of people can tell that it's you. And if you release anything else, I understand why it would be sort of weird. But at the same time, it is, you know, you, Austin, still making it. So yeah, I understand that struggle there.
Yeah.
Definitely firsthand. When you sort of sit down to listen to music, what do you find yourself listening to?
Yeah, I listen to everything. Yeah, it really depends on, I guess, like in the context of what I'm doing at the moment. Like, if I'm at work, I will listen to a lot of instrumental or ambient music just because it lends itself to being background music. Um, that's not to say ambient music can't be, or instrumental music can't be music that you put on just to like as a foreground, like deep listening experience. But sometimes it does help. If you're trying to focus on something else, but you want to still listen to music, you can listen to
Absolutely.
ambient
Yeah,
music
for
like
sure.
that. Lately, I've been getting a lot back into the metal stuff that I was into back when I was playing in bands. Just I've been on a really big health kick the last couple months, getting into running and stuff like that. So I found that listening to really heavy music helps me run better.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
Yeah.
yeah, getting into like metal and even some hip hop stuff as well.
Oh,
Very
nice.
nice.
I don't know if you're comfortable talking with it. If you're not, feel free. I'll edit this part out or whatever. But I think you just quit drinking alcohol, right? How has that sort of experience been?
Yeah, I quit drinking in mid-July. I think that's what it was. It's been a pretty interesting experience. Yeah, I don't know where to start on that. Like, yeah, I guess it just had become a thing of, well, I guess it had become a problem. Like my
Yeah.
relationship with it, and I think a lot of it has to just do with my relationship with a lot of things. Like my relationship with food is similar, where I don't really set boundaries that well. So yeah, I realized I was just like, I'm not going to be around much longer if I continue down the path that I'm on now. And I was very unhappy, and uh, I decided to just, make a change.
For sure.
A lot of, work. Like it took a lot of baby
Yeah.
steps or a lot of starts and stops. But once I made it through one night, then it became 2 nights, and then a week, a month. Now we're here 2.5 months, 3 months or
Wow.
something like that out, and still going. But you know, you have to just keep myself in check, and um, check in with the people that have been helping me get
That's
through this.
amazing.
And yeah,
I feel like that's such a healthy like realization to have when you realize that, you're having an unhealthy relationship with like a behavior of yours or
Yeah,
something.
any substance or any
Yeah.
behavior.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask, I know it's kind of hard to ask because I know you said you haven't been really making music for the past 6 months or so, but I did want to ask if quitting drinking has affected your creativity in any way. Like if you find that you feel more energetic or more creative when you're working on stuff, or if drinking used to help doing that. And like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little weird because I feel like I'm still navigating that. Right now is like the first time I really started working on music where I haven't been like drinking in years. So I don't think it's affected me too much, like in a negative way, um,
That's
or a
good.
positive way. It kind of just feels like, you know, the process is kind of still the same.
Okay.
Um, I think the main difference might be like when I start playing live shows again. Like I have not played a live show sober, to be honest. So this will be
Yeah.
pretty new to me. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah, besides that, I think definitely when I quit, or like the first like few months of quitting and like focusing on that, I think that took away all my focus. So like I couldn't focus on music for a little bit. I had
Yeah.
to just like focus on, whatever I was doing, like whether that's going on a run or like doing what I can to not have a drink that night or something. So
For sure.
That's a good place to be putting your energy, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really amazing and really just cool,
Yeah.
Um,
With the live shows, do you find that you kind of have a routine that you have to do before, like to get yourself set up and ready, or do you feel like you have a pretty easy time just kind of getting on stage and doing it?
yeah, that's a tough one because I am not. I guess I'm a shy person. Like I'm introverted by nature, so I struggle with going on stage sometimes. So that's where the
Yeah.
alcohol would help. That would be my prep back in the day, is just drink enough until I'm not feeling those nerves anymore.
Yeah.
But I think now, yeah, it's just remaining present and focusing on the music and focusing on trying to share something that's nice. So that's why I'm definitely feeling excited to play these upcoming shows. You know, I think it'll be like one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm breaking this habit for the first time and trying to
Yeah.
build a new habit for when I play live going forward.
for
That's
sure.
very exciting.
Yeah, I hope somebody, records those because, oh man, that'd be so sick to see you
I
live.
know. I
Because
would love to see you live.
where are you playing? Are you playing in like your sort of in California or in your city or?
I'm actually traveling, which is going to
Oh,
Oh,
be
okay.
amazing.
the first time I've traveled since the pandemic as well. So playing in Seattle and Denver.
Oh,
Very
wow. Oh,
nice.
lucky. Yeah, going to Colorado. It's the
Yeah.
best place ever.
I
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
um, who are you playing with? Are you sort of the main act or?
I get. I mean, it feels weird for me to say that, but I think so. Yeah. I can't. I haven't met everyone in the Seattle show yet. It's a crew that I'm unfamiliar with at the moment. I'll be meeting them all for the first time when I get there. In Denver, I'll be playing with some of the modular Denver people in that crew. Gerald Fjord,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
this other artist, Sign Mountain. Um, and I think one of the manufacturer who makes the WMD modules
Oh, wow.
will be playing that same show as well.
Wow.
So it should be pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure. Do you find in the modular sort of community, is that where you've sort of found your comfortability with people, or has it sort of just come to you? Like, was that an intentional thing when you started getting into modular stuff? To
That's a yeah. I'm not 100% sure. I I guess it was a situation of where like once I got into modular, I found the other modular people in my city. For me here, it was James Sigler. James Sigler.
Mm,
I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but yeah, he works with like Make Noise or used to work with Make Noise and all that. So
Wow.
I got in touch with him back in the early days, and he just put me in touch with a ton of people.
yeah,
He's very he knew everyone in the Bay Area here that was into that stuff.
Awesome.
So yeah, kind of found that scene that way. I do feel like I kind of like that I can fit into this like modular scene, but then I could fit outside of that
Yeah.
too. Like
absolutely.
just the music without. Sometimes I don't. Yeah, want the focus to be too much on the modular.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I've noticed with your stuff is, you're known as a modular guy, but your music doesn't necessarily sound super modular, if that makes any sense. How often does, the modular synth actually come out when you're composing or recording?
Like the album recordings.
Yeah.
I'd say it probably doesn't come through that much actually.
Yeah, that's what it seems
Like
like.
it's just like any other tool that's in a studio. It's like um, yeah, it's I try to purposely make it like that so it's not so transparent. Um,
For sure. Yeah, because I mean, I'm not one. I've never even used a modular system or anything, um, and I can tell from Echo's verse or whatever, um, that it's just a lot of it's tape manipulation and tape loops and all that stuff, and that's the stuff that I sort of gravitate towards. So it's really cool that you sort of do both in the same like sort of universe, but also separately. It's a cool way to sort of differentiate it all between the YouTube stuff and release stuff.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I definitely like when I was in the full swing of the YouTube thing. I was like, I don't know how comfortable I feel always like not shilling, but like it feels like free advertisement sometimes for a lot
for
of
sure.
um, where it becomes less about the music and more about the piece of gear that you're using.
Yeah.
And I kind of like struggled with that at times. I think I found an okay balance. Like I haven't really done the YouTube stuff as much in the last year, which I still enjoy doing, but I think just has to be the right situation for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because I noticed that it's been a few months at least since you uploaded your last YouTube video, and I was wondering if you're still still planning to continue doing that.
Yeah, I definitely will do stuff in the future on it. It's just been a matter of time, and yeah, like with the last 6 months, everything that's been going on, I just haven't had the focus. And that's like another thing is like beyond making the music for it, you have to be your own filmmaker and like
Yeah,
editor too.
Yeah.
for sure.
So it's like double the amount of work for not that much payoff.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, I think. Do you have any other questions?
No, I think that's all the questions we had. I mean, if you want to talk about any future goals or aspirations that you have with R Beny or just anything else, we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what to do next. Like I want to continue to grow creatively and not just, do the same things over and over. So to me, that's like not just doing another album for the sake of doing an album, but maybe trying to find another angle at it. Or I don't know. I have not figured that out that
For
far
sure.
ahead yet. So,
That's fine.
but
You're just flowing with it, and that's
Yeah.
very
yeah,
inspiring. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll see where the wind takes me. But yeah, getting back into playing live shows has been a big goal to me.
Yeah.
With the pandemic and everything going on, I haven't played in 2 years, so this will be a nice thing to try out and see if it's something I want to do more of in the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, I hope somebody records it or something because I want to see it.
Yeah.
I know one of them will be recorded for sure.
Okay. Amazing.
Perfect.
But then
Amazing.
I told them I reserve the right to, like, if it's not good.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe it'll be fine, and they'll put it on their. I think they're going to film it too. So
Oh,
Okay,
amazing.
cool.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, well, hopefully can come to Toronto or something to perform.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
I would
Have you
love
ever
that.
performed here?
I've never been to Canada. I'd love to
Oh,
go to
wow.
okay.
Canada.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, there's not much of a scene here,
Not
but
to us, at least.
to us at least, yeah. But hopefully, if there ever is like a show,
Yeah.
that'd be sick. I'd be
Yeah,
there
I know
100%.
there's some type of festivals or something around there. I remember Heinbach playing a couple years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Can't
that's why I
remember
said
what
to
it's
us,
called.
because I just don't think we're in the loop with these things.
Man, that would be so sick to see.
Maybe I'll get
Heimbach.
on there someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But I would love to come to Canada. Seems like a beautiful country. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Congratulations on getting healthy, and I hope that continues. And congratulations on all the music you've released and all the
new
people
live
you've
show coming
inspired. And
out.
it's
Thank you.
crazy to hear, like the amount of people that are inspired by you. I don't know. Most conversations I have with ambient people about writing music and stuff, your name comes up in terms of their inspiration and stuff. So, it was really cool getting to chat.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I don't do well with
Compliments.
positive
Yeah.
comments.
Aw.
I'm like, thanks.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. That's really nice. I mean, yeah, I appreciate you letting me come on and talk. Hopefully I didn't talk too much.
No,
No, yeah.
Try not to be too nervous.
Oh.
For sure. Hopefully we can have you back on again,
Yes,
once,
yeah.
some more music gets released or whatever, and we can talk about
Yeah.
live shows and all that.
Yeah.
Talk about that other project that I'm working on if it ever gets finished.
There you go. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
I would love
gonna
to hear more about that.
I'm gonna keep my eye out for an anonymous artist that's doing sort of
Yeah.
rhythmic ambient.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
But for anybody listening, thank you so much. Go out and support your favorite artist. Support R Beny. Go buy his vinyl. Go buy his anything on Bandcamp.
Go see his live shows if
Go
you're in the area.
Go see his live shows and
Support your local library.
Yeah.
support your local library. Seriously. Yeah, try to set up a program in that library to get music.
Yeah.
I would love if somebody found my music in a library. I think I might die because that would be the best thing ever.
That would be like a full circle thing for you.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, seriously. Oh, wow.
That'd be awesome.
But yeah,
Yeah.
with that being said, thank you everybody for listening again.
Yep.
And thank you,
Thank
Austin.
you, R Beny. Yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, talk soon.